Hi, I'm Craig Rowland, founder of Sandfly Security. Today, I'm going to tell you about a very little known way to access SSH with authorized keys, and this is called the Authorized Keys2 file. Now, many of you are aware that if you edit the authorized keys file for SSH for a user, you can add your public key to it, and that allows you access to the host. But what many people don't know about is there is a deprecated file called Authorized Keys 2, just the number 2 on the end of it. And if you put your key in there, many older versions of SSH will allow you to log into that host and authenticate with that key. And this way you avoid putting it into the Authorized Keys file. Now, why would you do this? Basically, because most people look for authorized keys. Very few people know about the Authorized Keys 2 file. So this is a way to hide backdoor access onto a system that might evade standard detection search mechanisms. So let me show you what I mean by that in the Sandfly system. In Sandfly, it's an agentless endpoint detection and response product for Linux. We can monitor Linux without deploying endpoint agents. We also track SSH keys, password auditing, drift detection, a lot more. But for today, what I did is I scanned a system here, and on this system, we identified one alert. And the alert here that we identified for today's demonstration is that we flagged the user admin, and we said the user admin has an SSH authorized key 2 file present in their SSH directory. The authorized keys 2 file name is an alternate name for SSH to use for authorized keys, and if enabled, can allow users to access the host without listing keys in the standard authorized keys 2 file. Basically, what this means is that there's two ways to get a public key to get recognized by a SSH daemon on a lot of systems, especially older versions of Linux. And when we look here at our raw result data, I see the information about that user, and I could see the file here in question, and I could see the full path of where we found that SSH key. So let's switch to the terminal so we can explore this a little bit more. On the terminal itself, I'm now in the main directory here. I'm going to go to the admin directory, and I'm going to go to .ssh, and I do an LSAL, and notice something here. Authorized keys 2, right? So what does this mean is basically you're expected to see authorized keys. If I count this file, it has an identical layout to it that's a standard authorized keys. In fact, I could run the authorized keys file and this file at the same time. So that way you can have two places to have a key in there. But the thing to understand here is that if I log in to that system, I'm going to SSH in. I'm going to use a private key here. I'm going to add log into that box as admin, and you see here that I dropped in to a shell. There's no authorized key file here. See that? It's authorized keys 2. This is what actually activated it. Now there's a couple more things here that are interesting. Let me clear this out here. If I do a look at the config file for SSH, and I scroll down here a bit, let's see, here it is here. It says, expect SSH authorized keys 2 to be disregarded by default in the future. And in fact, later versions of OpenSSH over the past couple of years do in fact ignore this file. But the default here is not to ignore it. And you see here, this is actually commented out, but it still will view that file as legitimate. So this is actually something that's a very sneaky way, again, to keep a key lying around. Now, if we go back over here to the Sandfly, I'll show you something else that's interesting on this, is that we actually did identify this through our SSH hunter as well. Probably too much to get into this video here, but we'll get into it in other videos in the future you can see on our channel. But we marked this as an internal SSH security zone, and we did get a violation showing that this system here has a user on it that's added a key. And again, I can see who that user is over here. I can see it's admin. I can see here that they added a key, and again, that key is present in the authorized key 2 file here. And again, I can see everything about who's using that key, what host they have access to, and so on. But the main thing here to understand, authorized key 2 file, basically, if I were to see a user using this file, I would assume they're up to no good. And I strongly advise you to do the same thing. There's no reason why people should be using it today except to avoid detection. And if they're trying to avoid detection, if they're friendly, you should find out why they've decided to do it. But odds are very high if they're using that file that they're not going to be friendly, and you should be asking some serious questions. So I'm Craig Rowland from Sandfly Security. Thanks so much for watching this video. Check out our other videos as well for more Linux forensics, intrusion detection, and analysis tips. I appreciate your time. Thanks again, and goodbye.